may surprise some of you that I'm actually a huge fan of The Jungle Book. No, not that one. No, not that one either. The actual book. It's surprising how many people don't know there's a literary source to The Jungle Book. The classic collection of stories by Rudyard Kipling mostly tackle the ongoing separations yet parallels between abandonment and fostering, law and freedom, and the coming-of-age balance between trying to belong yet also trying to stand out. Then this came along and it became the Funny Monkey Movie! And before you go nuts, I like this film fine. The animated Disney adaptation had little connection to the best-known story from The Jungle Book, Mowgli's Brothers, but it was a cute little flick with some catchy songs and memorable characters. And seeing how we're still in the middle of Disney's live-action remake month,
La 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 la.
It only figures to talk about, I'll just say it, what I think is a weirdly beloved modern version. So while most of these Disney remakes are big hits, there's usually a fair amount of people who find they can't get into what the movie is doing. Jungle Book is one of the few exceptions, sitting at 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and getting a reputation as the grown-up version compared to the other ones. Only a complete asshole with Dare Bam outfit. Oh, I thought this day would never come! Yeah, I'm that jerk off who not only didn't like it, but really didn't like it. Surprisingly, it's not because it wasn't enough like the book. The original film did that and it was fine. It's that it tries to mix the book and the movie by focusing on their least effective elements while leaving out what made the other version so memorable. What are these elements? Well, as your designated asshole, I'm excited to expand on this different point of view among a sea of disapproving comments. That's a good start. Let's take a look at 2016's Jungle Book. So at first you might be wondering why the logo looks nostalgically hand-drawn even though this is live action. Especially when there's already a nostalgically hand-drawn logo they're not using. This is the confusing tone that'll accompany the next 90 minutes. Oh, whoops, we skipped forward to the middle. No, wait, this is apparently clever. Okay, just starting us off in the middle of things. I guess a lot of stories do that. Let's see what it adds.
You must be the very worst wolf I've ever seen.
A weak-ass fake-out we all saw coming. Anything else?
Wolves don't hide in trees.
I just picked the wrong tree.
It was a dead tree.
I'm gonna take this talk about trees as no, there is nothing else. So why do we have this generic intro? The opening to both the book and the animated film are simple, straightforward, and reveal a lot of character. Within the first few moments, we know Mowgli is an abandoned baby, a predator has the chance to kill him but doesn't, creates a connection showing love and care, and shows clearly that this is unusual and even risky, yet they still take that chance on this connection. But hell with that nonsense, we have the opening to U.S. Marshals! Yeah, remember that sequel to The Fugitive you don't remember? They start off with a bland action sequence with the main character that doesn't tie into the rest of the movie. A lot of shitty films do that, but to be fair, they don't already have a perfectly written intro laid out for them. And I know, it seems like a lot to harp on so early, but the other intros really do suck you in. It shows you who they are, how they became this way, and how their world works. This one, rather than showing you, tells you.
When I found him many years ago, he was just an infant, abandoned in the woods. That's why I entrusted him to the wolves.
The book had a lot of explaining about its environment too, but it was done through Mowgli's eyes as the newcomer. If he didn't follow these rules, he'll die. We're emotionally invested. Here it sounds like what you study for a test.
Akela was a just and noble leader, and a water truce was called. It was Raksha who raised him. It had been many, many years since the Peace Rock was revealed. By law of the jungle, drinking comes before eating.
Critic, how does the law of the jungle go?
I pledge allegiance.
See me after class.
Yeah. By the way, see if you can tell which lines are from one of the greatest literary minds who ever lived, and which ones are Disney writers trying to make their 5-year-old laugh.
The law runneth over and back. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack.
There's a rock. That's my rock. That's my rock. Nobody touches my rock. There's another rock.
The wolf that keeps it may prosper, but the wolf that breaks it will die.
Weird. That's weird.
Pretty hard to tell, right? At least the other one didn't even try. They knew that lines like this.
I do not call you my brothers anymore, but dogs. I see that you are indeed dogs.
When mixed with lines like this. They were saving the more grown-up version for the sequel. Mowgli, played by Neil Sethi, forms a strong friendship with Bagheera, voiced by Ben Kingsley, and to their credit, everybody in this film acts fine. Even ones chosen to act bad are surprisingly pretty good, but we'll get to that in a bit. The technology is very impressive too, as it truly is hard to believe that all of this takes place inside a studio. But the characters and world building are still very strange. For example, Shere Khan, voiced by Idris Elba, comes to drink from the water on the Day of Peace. It makes a little sense and isn't from the book, but I'll give it a pass for at least trying to sound adult.
A man cub becomes man, and man is forbidden!
This Shere Khan is odd. In the original story, he's a screaming, bloodthirsty thug, but still follow the laws of the jungle. In the anime one, he's calm and sophisticated, but does whatever he wants for the thrill of it. Here, they try to combine the two, and it just doesn't add up. He has an elegant vocabulary, but he's always dirty and covered in mud. Imagine if the anime one looked like that. He'd look ridiculous.
You're trying my patience.
He also goes on and on about following the law of the jungle and that Mowgli should be killed because man is too dangerous, but we'll get to that in a moment. Just remember I said that. For now, there's concern about whether or not the law-abiding Shere Khan will not harm Mowgli.
It was a question the council had to face. They deliberated and they argued for many days.
It was more interesting when they showed this discussion, but school's not supposed to be fun.
I'm leaving.
No matter where you go, or what they may call you, you will always be my son.
Feel free to return to share our incredible moments, like hearing Bagheera talk about our incredible moments. So Mowgli agrees to leave to keep the wolves safe, but Bagheera says he's going to take him to the man village, which Mowgli doesn't want to go to. Shere Khan separates them though, as Mowgli tries hiding among the wildebeest stampede. I saw another Disney film like this. It doesn't end well for the cat. Mowgli gets away though, which should make Shere Khan happy, seeing how he's finally out of the jungle. But he returns to the wolves and, well, kills their leader and holds them hostage until Mowgli returns.
Until I have the man cub, these hills are my hills.
Okay, this brings me back to what I was saying before. Now, this might sound like a dumb question at first, but really think about it, like actually think it over. Why does Shere Khan want Mowgli? In the original, it's because he lives among them. Makes sense, he thinks he's gonna grow into a man and kill them. In the anime one, it's for the thrill of the hunt. He loves the challenge and smiles whenever he even hears the mention of man.
I'm going to close my eyes and count to 10. It makes the chase more interesting for me.
Here? I don't really know. If he can do whatever he wants, like in the anime one, why didn't he just get Mowgli at the watering hole? Nobody's stopping him from taking over the wolves, so nobody would stop him there. If he follows the rules like in the book, he just threw those out the window when he killed the wolves' leader. And it doesn't matter because Mowgli's out of the jungle anyway, there's no threat. Either way, there's no reason for him to want this damn kid, not in character motivation or logical survival. I know they're trying to be the grown-up version, but when the adult version can't answer why and the kid version can, you're pretty much becoming DC. But don't worry, their version of Kaa is sure to win you over. Yeah, you remember him? Arguably pointless, but so much fun to watch you wouldn't dream of filming a Jungle Book movie without him. He was funny, but also had a predatory creepiness to him. Think Winnie the Pooh crossed with Herbert from Family Guy.
You don't want me to look at you?
I know what you're trying to do.
He had 2 lengthy scenes in the anime one, so let's see what they do with him here. Well, first of all, he's a she now, played by Scarlett Johansson.
Poor, sweet little cub.
Okay, odd, but I'll see where they're going with this. She, for no reason I can figure, tells him that Shere Khan killed his father, then tries to eat him, but is knocked out by Baloo the bear. And that's it, no more Kaa. Under 2 minutes of no jokes, no songs, not even really any character. But man, does she use those plot points for hypnotizing people that leave no impression on our main character. Like, he doesn't even bring up, oh, it sucks that Shere Khan killed my dad. Kinda looks like he just forgets about it through most of the movie. So, which one is really better? The silly little kid version that no one remembers, or the super complex, dark and gritty grown-up version? What the hell are you people? Oh, by the way, is that the motivation for why Shere Khan wants Mowgli so bad? He wants to go after the offspring of the man who burned his face? Well, he already killed the guy. I don't see what going after the offspring's gonna do. Is he also gonna say screw the law of the jungle and my livelihood because I didn't get the son of an antelope? Or the daughter of a quail? Or the nephew of a zebra? This is still dumb if this is it!
Relax, kid. No need to get worked up, okay?
So Bill Murray plays Bill Murray, voicing a bear playing Bill Murray.
You owe me, kid. You owe me.
I guess his distinct voice can be a little distracting, but if you never heard Little John when watching the original, you are lying to your soul. As payback for saving Mowgli's life, Baloo uses him to climb up a mountain to get him honey, telling him the bees don't sting.
You said they didn't sting. What do you call this?
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
I have to go to the man village.
So Mowgli decides to head to the man village. Yeah, I guess he's okay with going there again. And Baloo says he'll show him the way.
You can always tell by the red flower.
The red flower doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah. Let it loose, and it destroys everything it touches.
Kinda weird how he calls fire the red flower, but a moment earlier he used the word propaganda.
That's not a song. That's propaganda.
Guess they got a lot of Michael Moore movies in the jungle. Baloo convinces Mowgli to stay with him in the jungle as they sing a familiar tune.
What's that?
That's a song about the good life.
Yeah, the other version they were on song 3, but I guess this is a good time to do our first.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
I do like that Mowgli puts devices together to help get food. It actually makes me realize how pretty useless he was in the anime one. He even finds an elephant trapped in a hole and uses his ingenuity to get him out. It's actually a very nice scene. But it's botched when Bagheera finds them both and tries to take Mowgli back to the man village. You see, when he tells Baloo that Shere Khan is after him, Baloo, for no friggin' reason, lies to Mowgli about why he has to go.
Maybe it's time for you two mosey along.
We're buddies, aren't we?
No, we were never friends. I certainly never thought of you as my friend. Do I have to spell this out? I don't want you around anymore.
Okay, look, this scene in the anime one is kinda lame too, because Mowgli's just being a brat. But Baloo still tells him the truth. And it's Mowgli's constant fear of the man village that drives him away. In this version, Baloo convinces him to stay in the jungle. Mowgli was actually gonna go to the man village even without Bagheera. So why the hell doesn't he just be honest? Go to the village or Shere Khan will kill the shit out of you. He already knows how dangerous he is. In the original, he's never seen it before, but here, he got attacked by him several times. So yeah, go to the man village, come visit, we'll hang out, just like the original plan we had.
If it turns out to not be fun for you, I will walk you right down to that man village myself.
Just till winter.
There is no goddamn reason for this pitifully forced friendship breakup. It's lazy. It's done in a million movies to create a third act rift, and it's lazy. The book didn't need him lying, the anime one didn't need him lying, but this one does because it's the grown-up version. Hey, you know what's grown up? Treating kids with respect and being creative in what you teach them. You lazy assholes! Okay, so what characters haven't made an appearance yet?
Monkey!
That's right, monkeys kidnap Mowgli and take him to a temple where King Louie, voiced by Christopher You Bet Your Ass They Made This Joke Walkin', resides. Who in all fairness is actually kinda good. I'm not even kidding, it's a totally different tone and attitude, but it kind of works.
You, man cub. You come from the south, the north, what part?
The south, I guess?
You know who I am? I am the king of the Badalag.
He's kind of like a mafia boss, soft-spoken but intimidating. He's threatening but also weirdly engaging.
You want to live here? You need a people to protect you.
But just when you think this is something untainted by stupid.
Now don't try to kid me, man cub. I'll make a deal with you.
Oh my god, is this happening?
I desire this man's red fire to make my dream come true.
You don't have to do this.
Now give me the secret, man cub. Come on! Show me what to do.
Get out! Get out of there!
A man's red flower so I can be like you. Oh, Ooby-Doo! No!
Okay, so you might be thinking, come on, this song was in the animated one, why not here? Because there is no other point in the movie that's a friggin' musical! Bare Necessities is a song, but not a musical number. It's a tune Baloo teaches Mowgli and they sing it together. This song is being used to speak and communicate. It's replacing conversation and expressing motivation. And it's the only one like it in the movie. It's like at the end of Full Metal Jacket when they sing Mickey Mouse Club. They're just singing a song they all know after battle. It makes sense. But if the drill sergeant broke out singing Let It Go and everybody joined him, it'd be friggin' goddamn ludicrous! This is that scene! It's friggin' goddamn ludicrous! How did it get this again? Baloo comes in to create a distraction as Bagheera saves Mowgli. But before getting him out, Louie reveals that the leader of the wolves is dead.
Shere Khan killed him.
Again, Bagheera could have relayed that information, but we have to pretend this pointless scene wasn't a pointless scene because, again, grown-up version. Finding this out, Mowgli sneaks into the man village to grab the red flower to fight off Shere Khan. A few drops of it fall, and I can see where the phrase spread like wildfire comes from because shit! The whole jungle's on fire in seconds! Okay, this would literally have to go from this to this in a matter of a few minutes. Even wildfire doesn't spread like wildfire! So the animals are now afraid of Mowgli for starting the fire, even his family, but he throws out the fire, which is the stupidest thing he could have done.
That was the stupidest thing you could have done.
Right? If you destroyed their home, you might as well use it for its original intent. But the animals stand behind Mowgli to say thanks for burning everything down, and why the hell didn't we rise up to fight this jackass days earlier?
You all in my teeth!
So all the animals rush in to take down Shere Khan, or Baloo just rushes in and everybody else just shows moral support. What can we do? We're just killer animals. We can't fight those killer animals. Baloo gets taken down though, as everyone remembers. Oh yeah, we can do something. As Mowgli is told not to fight him like a wolf, but fight him like a man.
Fight him like a man.
You know what this scene needs? Buzzards that sound like the Beatles. It'd be as inconsistent as everything else. Mowgli defeats Shere Khan through his inventive ways and he falls to his death. He also manages to convince the elephants to put out the fires. Yeah, they just dug holes with their tusks and let the water there. Though given how fast those flames spread, half of India should be on fire now! And the animals honor Mowgli.
But that night, I saw something I'll never forget. I saw a little boy without a people bring all the jungle together for the very first time.
Except for that other time all the animals came together, which apparently happens so often you have a name for the place, Peace Rock.
You could come to the Peace Rock and find all people side by side.
Don't dress this up, Bagheera. He set your home on fire and somebody else put it out. He's the equivalent of a donkey kicking a lantern. But okay, you know the drill. After all this talk of acting like a man, fighting like a man, and thinking like a man, the time has come for him to go absolutely nowhere. Interesting change. In just about every version, he goes back to the man village because they build up, that's where he belongs. But this one doesn't do that. Why? No goddamn clue. I have no idea how this makes anything better. The story, in most of its forms, is about accepting the responsibility of who you are and where you'll grow best. But this one ends on an image just as lazy as the writing, closing the exact same book used in the animated film. Because you just saw the animated film, except it's live action. They're so similar! Guys, I don't get this. I know objectively this isn't an awful film. If there were no books or other versions, it'd probably just be seen as a passable kids flick. But there is a book and a perfectly good animated film, and nothing in this is better than either of those. The original story is aggressive, dark, and full of great truths. The animated film is cute, charming, and full of unforgettable characters. This tries to combine them without realizing what made them work on their own. Are you gonna remember any of these characters more than the animated one? Probably not. Are you gonna remember the language or lessons as much as the book? I don't even think the movie remembers its own language or lessons. It keeps changing so much.
This is the law of the jungle. There's a rock. That's my rock, that's my rock.
I know there's no real harm in enjoying this film, but leaving out what made the book and the animated version so enjoyable and even important is a huge disservice to the storytellers who understand their medium and used it so cleverly. Whether it's a delightful little kids movie you'll return to more and more, or an epic coming-of-age story you'll return to more and more, this one will most likely be looked at less and less. And you know what? I want Disney to do an authentic version of this book. I want it so authentic that the author's name is above the title.
The Jungle Book.
Not directed by the idiot who directed the Mummy movie.
Strength of a bear. Speed of a panther.
Okay, maybe this version's not as bad as I thought. Okay, just starting us off in the middle of things. I guess a lot of stories do that. Let's see what it adds.
You must be the very worst wolf I've ever seen.
A weak-ass fake-out we all saw coming. Anything else?
Wolves don't hide in trees.
I just picked the wrong tree.
It was a dead tree.
I'm gonna take this talk about trees as no, there is nothing else. So why do we have this generic intro? The opening to both the book and the animated film are simple, straightforward, and reveal a lot of character. Within the first few moments, we know Mowgli is an abandoned baby, a predator has the chance to kill him but doesn't, creates a connection showing love and care, and shows clearly that this is unusual and even risky, yet they still take that chance on this connection. But hell with that nonsense, we have the opening to U.S. Marshals! Yeah, remember that sequel to The Fugitive you don't remember? They start off with a bland action sequence with the main character that doesn't tie into the rest of the movie.
Doesn't tie into the rest of the movie? This opening chase is meant to show how the animals have been pushing Mowgli to be more of a wolf than a man, which he needed to be in order to survive out in the jungle for this long. This chase also contributes to one of the main elements of the final battle, where Mowgli shows how he gained experience and knowledge of recognizing the right trees to use, so he doesn't jump on or climb onto a weak branch which would have killed him. Lastly, it's mirrored during the epilogue, which is meant to show how much Mowgli has grown through the events of the film. It might seem insignificant at face value, but after you take more time to think about it, you realize that it makes 3 major contributions to the development of the plot. Comparing this opening chase scene to the openings of the animated versions doesn't work because it still makes sense in its own self-contained environment. It also just feels unnecessary. The people who made this movie had to have known that there were people who already saw the animated versions. They knew that going through all of this introducing Mowgli into his family and the jungle as his home stuff again would have been redundant because we already got that somewhere else. Perhaps that's not the case if you've never seen the animated versions, but in that case it still wouldn't matter because the live-action remake is still avoiding doing the same thing that the animated ones did. It was basically doing this to avoid origin fatigue.
By the way, see if you can tell which lines are from one of the greatest literary minds who ever lived, and which ones are Disney writers trying to make their 5-year-old laugh.
The law runneth over and back, for the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack.
There's a rock. That's my rock, that's my rock. Nobody touches my rock, there's another rock.
The wolf that keeps it may prosper, but the wolf that breaks it will die.
Weird. That's weird.
Pretty hard to tell, right?
This dialogue argument was something I was going to let slide at first, but after giving it some thought, this is also a very exaggerated criticism. And it also feels irritating that he's treating what's actually a nitpick as if it was a major problem with the movie. That part where the mice say weird a few times is meant to show how Mowgli's inventions are out of place in the jungle, and don't belong in the presence of the animals. The argument that Doug seems to make is the shift in the tone of the dialogue, but there's a couple of ways to explain it. Mowgli is speaking the wisdom that he learned from living in the wolf pack. They made his dialogue fitting and true to the setup of his character, so it's not a detriment to how the lines are delivered. And the animals who are completely irrelevant background characters are the ones who say the more lighthearted stuff, which can easily be ignored. He also uses this as an excuse to compare the live-action one to the animated ones again. Now, it's true that the 2 animated versions were wise to keep a consistent tone separate from each other, but Doug is using this to say that the live-action remake doesn't have a consistent tone. The problem with this argument is that the movie does have a tone that stays reasonably consistent, knowing how to time the serious stuff and the lighthearted stuff properly.
A man cub becomes man, and man is forbidden!
This Shere Khan is odd.
The Shere Khan in this version still fits into the setting. His primal fear of man is still present, and he fears what Mowgli can become if he's allowed to live. Even if Mowgli did go to the village, what would stop him from coming back years later as a hunter? The other animals might know that Mowgli is better than this, but Shere Khan doesn't because of his prejudice. This was also something that was established in the animated Disney version.
What's he got against the kid?
He hates man with a vengeance, you know that. Because he fears man's gun and man's fire.
But little Mowgli don't have those things.
Shere Khan won't wait until he does.
In the original story, he's a screaming, bloodthirsty thug, but still followed the laws of the jungle. In the anime one, he's calm and sophisticated, but does whatever he wants for the thrill of it. Here, they tried to combine the two, and it just doesn't add up.
I don't see how this Khan is supposed to be a combination of the 2 animated ones, since neither of their character traits are very present in him. He doesn't have either of their charisma, and he's far more straightforward with how menacing he is.
He has an elegant vocabulary, but he's always dirty and covered in mud. Imagine if the anime one looked like that. He'd look ridiculous.
You're trying my patience.
The filth and dirt implies how he's a ruthless fighter who enjoys the brutality of his hunts. Again, it fits with this version because he's not trying to be charismatic. He's being straightforward in how ruthless he is.
No matter where you go, or what they may call you, you will always be my son.
Feel free to return to share our incredible moments, like hearing Bagheera talk about our incredible moments.
Mowgli and the wolves do have a strong relationship in this version. It was simple, but it also had enough detail to not be hollow and absent-minded. When Mowgli says he's leaving, there's a more urgent sense of drama. There's a back and forth on him going, and the mother shows emotion towards the decision. You can see that Mowgli and his adopted mother are very close based on how they talk during the opening and how they lock heads during his departure. The same can also be said about his brother Gray. We get to see some of them interacting in the beginning, and we get to see how Mowgli's departure affects him. You don't need a whole bunch of scenes of Mowgli interacting with the wolves because the relationship is conveyed through body language and personal conversation.
Shere Khan separates them, though, as Mowgli tries hiding among the wildebeest stampede.
Those are water buffaloes, not wildebeests. Considering that he got this information wrong to make that Lion King reference, it just makes the joke feel more obvious and flat.
Mowgli gets away, though, which should make Shere Khan happy, seeing how he's finally out of the jungle.
Just because Khan didn't see Mowgli at the end of the stampede doesn't mean that he was out of the jungle. He could still be in it for all he knows. And guess what? He was right. Mowgli did spend the rest of the majority of the movie in the jungle.
Now, this might sound like a dumb question at first, but really think about it. Like, actually think it over. Why does Shere Khan want Mowgli?
Because of his primal fear of man, which is something that you should have picked up by now. Even if he's not as interesting as the animated counterparts, they still got that aspect of his character right. Khan didn't want to risk Mowgli growing stronger and becoming more of a tactician in a potential fight against him. And we see how he's capable of building sharp-ended weapons that he could use to fight off Khan. He obviously can't do anything against a whole village of people who have gathered to build firm structure and weapons that can easily overwhelm him, but when he hears of a single one being in his domain, he's compelled to destroy it.
In the anime one is for the thrill of the hunt. He loves the challenge and smiles whenever he even hears the mention of man.
The animated Disney one didn't hunt Mowgli just for the thrill of the chase. He too hated man with a vengeance. If he only did it for the thrill of the hunt, it would have made him look like a psychotic serial killer. And that clearly wasn't the way that his character was being established.
If he can do whatever he wants, like in the anime one, why didn't he just get Mowgli at the watering hole?
Because he can't just do whatever he wants. The whole Day of Peace thing was clearly spelled out for you. He had to respect the law of the water truce, a time when hunting was forbidden. This is what enrages Khan further because Mowgli is being protected by a truce he can't do anything about. It also upsets him that the man being forbidden rule was being excused for Mowgli's sake. And despite that, he still chose to not attack Mowgli at the watering hole while the truce was active. He waited until the rain season came, in which Peace Rock would be covered and the truce would have ended. He didn't kill Mowgli or Akela or anyone else at the Peace Rock because he knew that it was forbidden to fight there. This is meant to show that Khan, in his own fucked up way, cares about the laws of the jungle to an extent.
If he follows the rules like in the book, he just threw those out the window when he killed the wolves' leader.
Again, Khan didn't violate the rules of the jungle when he killed Akela. He respected the law during the watering truce when hunting was forbidden. There was no truce going on at the time that he attacked him. The rain season had come and the Peace Rock was covered.
And it doesn't matter because Mowgli's out of the jungle anyway, there's no threat.
He was clearly still in the jungle as I just went over. That's why he felt compelled to draw him out.
Either way, there's no reason for him to want this damn kid, not in character motivation or logical survival.
The way I see it, Khan thinks of Mowgli as a threat because he obtained more intricate knowledge on the jungle, and he fears that he can use that knowledge to damage the jungle later on, which makes him potentially more dangerous than any other man. In a later scene, King Louie assumed that the ability to create the red flower is something that man is just born with. Shere Khan and many of the other animals could believe the same thing, so Khan would probably think that Mowgli will make a red flower and try to destroy the jungle when he gets older.
I know they're trying to be the grown-up version.
So now comes the most repetitive argument that Doug makes in this review, because trust me, you're gonna be hearing it a couple of more times, calling the live-action remake the grown-up version. I know I'm only speaking for myself here, but I never saw anyone calling the 2016 remake the grown-up version, especially considering how the movie is rated PG. It might be darker than the animated one, but that doesn't make it an adult version. And if you think it's because of the trailers, those don't count. The trailers were made to make the film look epic, not mature. I'd say that the Chuck Jones short was a lot more adult than the live-action remake, but that's not what the live-action remake was trying to be. It was trying to be a family movie in which both adults and children can enjoy it. Because of how the movie mixes more serious stuff with a lighthearted and upbeat tone, it's capable of translating its themes to any audience member of any age. Seeing Doug constantly throwing that reputation in its face when it never had it in the first place is obnoxious. And using that mocking voice and those finger movements to mock the movie's positive reception makes it feel a little bit more tedious.
But when the adult version can't answer why and the kid version can, you're pretty much becoming DC.
Dawn of Justice didn't suck because it was the grown-up alternative to the cartoon. It sucked because it was a poorly executed mess of 20 different stories meshed together with a faulty premise. Comparing it to this movie for the singular purpose of boosting your ego is a petty low blow.
She, for no reason I can figure, tells him that Shere Khan killed his father, then tries to eat him but is knocked out by Baloo the bear. And that's it, no more Kaa. Under 2 minutes of no jokes, no songs, not even really any character.
Kaa was doing more than just explaining Mowgli's backstory. She was foreshadowing the presence of the red flower, which plays a key role during the climax. It's described as a destructive, mysterious force that the animals of the jungle don't understand. It's why they're afraid of fire, and it's one of the reasons why man is supposed to be forbidden. This is a crucial plot point that Doug completely overlooks, despite that it was meant to explain to the audience about one of the reasons why Khan is afraid of Mowgli and why he would want to kill him. So despite not having as much character as the animated one, she still added something to the film.
So, which one is really better? The silly little kid version that no one remembers, or the super complex, dark and gritty grown-up version? What the hell are you people?
Alright, if Doug is gonna keep bringing this up, then I suppose I should say something about it too. The idea of something being darker, edgier, and more serious. Here's how I understand it to work. In order for the darker and more serious stuff to not come across as overbearing and annoying, there needs to be a form of compromise. If you make something dark and edgy for the sake of being dark and edgy, of course it's going to be bad. However, if you can find a way for it to have purpose and meaning in the story that you're telling while not pushing it too much, you can end up pulling off something interesting. For example, Batman the Animated Series could have been incredibly awful. It could have been a cartoon that was being dark and edgy and serious for the singular purpose of appeasing to an older audience. But the writing came across as balanced and relatable. And it wasn't just dark and edgy. It was also silly, goofy, straightforward, adventurous, charming, all mixed with a sense of humanity. These were things that both adults and children could relate to, which would explain why many adults who grew up in the 90s still find Batman the Animated Series as a fantastic show. And that's what the live-action remake of The Jungle Book is. It too was darker and more serious, but it was also silly, goofy, straightforward, adventurous, and charming. The way that Doug constantly mocks it by calling it the adult version or the grown-up version quickly becomes a straw man argument. It feels like an ongoing argument in the YouTube comment section, and he's really reaching out to things to complain about in order to prove his faulty points.
I have to go to the man village.
So Mowgli decides to head to the man village. Yeah, I guess he's okay with going there again.
When Mowgli says he has to go to the village, he says it with a tone that shows how he feels like it's being forced on him. Bagheera was constantly telling him that he needed to go, despite that he didn't want to.
You can always tell by the red flower.
The red flower doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah. Let it loose, and it destroys everything it touches.
Kinda weird how he calls fire the red flower, but a moment earlier he used the word propaganda.
He calls it the red flower because he, like every other animal, doesn't know anything about it. All he knows is how it's a destructive force that spreads fast. He's more familiar with the wolves because he lives in the same space as them, and their lifestyle strongly contrasts with his own. That's why he jokingly refers to their speech as propaganda. And furthermore, why would you expect any of the animals to refer to fire as fire in this version? It's made very clear that no one in the jungle knows the actual term. The idea of fire being a mysterious force to the inhabitants of the jungle is captured during Mowgli sneaking into the village near the climax. We see it from his point of view as this vibrant red aura that looks majestic and beautiful, but can also be destructive if handled poorly.
He even finds an elephant trapped in a hole and uses his ingenuity to get him out. It's actually a very nice scene. But it's botched when Bagheera finds them both and tries to take Mowgli back to the man village.
The meaning behind the scene doesn't get botched. Bagheera in his heart acknowledges that a part of Mowgli should stay in the jungle. It's just that with Khan on the loose, he has to be taken somewhere else because it's the only way to ensure that he doesn't end up getting killed.
Do I have to spell this out? I don't want you around anymore.
Okay, look, this scene in the anime one is kinda lame too, because Mowgli's just being a brat. But Baloo still tells him the truth.
But telling Mowgli the truth wouldn't have changed anything, or make him stay away from Khan for that matter. Bagheera tried changing Mowgli's mind earlier, and that didn't work either. Mowgli still wanted to stay in the jungle, even with Bagheera warning him about Khan. If Baloo told Mowgli that he should just live in the village, he would argue and stubbornly stay anyway. Also, if he does tell the truth and tell Mowgli that his wolf father was killed, it would make Mowgli go back to Khan in revenge, which would end up doing exactly what Khan wants. It might result in the cliché rift for the third act, but it still makes sense in the context of the situation. Driving him away was the only reasonable thing he could think of to make Mowgli think of going to the village.
In this version, Baloo convinces him to stay in the jungle. Mowgli was actually gonna go to the man village even without Bagheera.
There was no guarantee that Mowgli was gonna go to the village because of how much more fun he was having living with Baloo. He specifically said that he didn't want to leave because he felt better living there. This is something that he says after that pep talk by the village. You also need to consider Mowgli's main motivation. He wanted to leave the wolf pack because he thought it would keep them safe from Khan. Mowgli never wanted to go to the man village at all. He always saw going to the village as a minor alternative to going somewhere else. There's a scene earlier on where he suggests living with a different herd of animals where he thinks he can hide from Khan. Once Mowgli feels he can just live with Baloo, an alternative is presented to him and he would no longer feel a desire to go to the man village.
The book didn't need him lying, the anime one didn't need him lying, but this one does because it's the grown-up version.
Good God, man, do we really need to go into the whole grown-up thing again?
How did it get this again?
Okay, anyone with half a brain can tell at this point that Rotten Tomatoes is a horrible, irrelevant website, and shame on you for using it as a reliable source of information, twice.
But before getting him out, Louie reveals that the leader of the wolves is dead.
Shere Khan killed him.
Again, Bagheera could have relayed that information.
Had Bagheera relayed that information to Mowgli, it would have made him run recklessly to his death. Which, guess what, is exactly what ends up happening. Bagheera was put in charge of looking after Mowgli specifically to not let that happen.
But we have to pretend this pointless scene wasn't a pointless scene because, again, grown-up version.
Come on, man, it's not even funny anymore. Did you seriously just assume that because it's a live-action remake?
Finding this out, Mowgli sneaks into the man village to grab the red flower to fight off Shere Khan. A few drops of it fall, and I can see where the phrase spread like wildfire comes from because shit! The whole jungle's on fire in seconds! Okay, this would literally have to go from this to this in a matter of a few minutes. Even wildfire doesn't spread like wildfire!
Yeah, I watched Bambi a while back, and the fire in that movie spread pretty fast too. This would be okay as a nitpick, but he's treating it like a plot hole considering that he brings it up a few more times during the climax. Wildfire can actually spread pretty damn fast, and if he doesn't believe that, he's clearly never heard of Arizona.
So the animals are now afraid of Mowgli for starting the fire, even his family, but he throws out the fire, which is the stupidest thing he could have done.
That was the stupidest thing you could have done.
Right? If you destroyed their home, you might as well use it for its original intent.
Mowgli was proving to Khan and all of the other animals that he wasn't the kind of man that he was afraid of. Sure, he gets the fire at the beginning, but that's after he found out that his family was in danger. He was desperate and needed something he thought he could use to protect them from Khan. That was just the pressuring situation he was placed in, especially since he was left more angry by Baloo and Bagheera not being honest with him. When Mowgli was given the chance to use the fire to hurt Khan instead of protect his wolf pack, he gets rid of it.
But the animals stand behind Mowgli to say, thanks for burning everything down, and why the hell didn't we rise up to fight this jackass days earlier?
The wolves weren't strong enough to take on Khan by themselves, something that was actually shown during the final battle.
In just about every version, he goes back to the man village because they build up, that's where he belongs. But this one doesn't do that. Why? No goddamn clue!
I do prefer the ending of the animated versions, but I can actually see what they were going for here. They wanted to give the ending a more modern take, and things that happen in this version actually support that take. It's an allegory for nurture over nature. The Jungle Book at its core is still about a human boy who was raised and loved by animals, and the bond between him and the wolves is made out to be stronger than in the animated Disney one. Instead of the message being you have to be with your own kind, it was turned into live where you feel like you belong. So it's not really a surprise that this movie would take a different direction and stay true to what it was doing.
Guys, I don't get this.
Considering your history with Disney movies, I never expected you to.
The original story is aggressive, dark, and full of great truths. The animated film is cute, charming, and full of unforgettable characters. This tries to combine them without realizing what made them work on their own.
Or maybe it was doing its own spin on the story. The new ending they went with kind of implements that. Just because it was acknowledging things that happened in the animated versions doesn't mean it was trying to be a combination of the two.
Are you gonna remember any of these characters more than the animated one? Probably not. Are you gonna remember the language or lessons as much as the book? Whether it's a delightful little kids movie you'll return to more and more, or an epic coming-of-age story you'll return to more and more, this one will most likely be looked at less and less.
Didn't you say in your It review that even though the new one was better, the original was more memorable because of its familiar feel? Of course people will remember the animated one more because it's just the version that they grew up with. Why does that automatically make the remake badly written? You literally said the animated Disney one is more memorable than the live-action one, meaning that the live-action one must be bad as a result. But that shouldn't be used as a definitive reason as to why. You are literally going back on a lesson you taught your audience in the past for the sake of your own self-entitled outlook on this movie. It feels like Doug is deliberately contradicting himself just to get his thoughts on this movie across. It's incredibly contradictory, and combined with all of the other fundamental problems with this review, it results in a complete mess of an analysis.
I want Disney to do an authentic version of this book. I want it so authentic that the author's name is above the title.
The Jungle Book.
Not directed by the idiot who directed the Mummy movie!
But it's in live action, Doug. That must mean it's the real grown-up You know what? Fuck this show.